The galaxy was vast, full of stars, planets, and civilizations. Among these civilizations, humanity was still young. They had only recently begun to explore space, but they were already making waves. Other alien species saw humans as weak and small compared to their mighty empires. But the humans worked hard. They built ships, colonies, and alliances. Still, they were often treated like outsiders, lesser beings who didn't belong at the galactic table on this day. However, everything would change far away from Earth. On a space station orbiting a neutral planet called Xylos 4, leaders from across the galaxy had gathered for an important meeting. This was no ordinary meeting. It was called the Galactic Concord Summit, and it was meant to bring peace among the many alien races. Or so everyone thought. Admiral Elena Voss stood tall in her uniform, staring out of the large observation window of the space station. She watched as countless alien ships filled the void outside. Ships of all shapes and sizes floated silently, representing dozens of different species. Some looked sleek and modern, while others appeared ancient and menacing. Each one carried weapons powerful enough to destroy entire worlds. Elena sighed deeply. She knew that not all of these aliens came here for peace. Many of them wanted power or revenge. For years, humanity had been trying to prove itself worthy of joining the galactic community, but every step forward seemed to be met with resistance. The Krillin Empire, especially, had always been hostile toward humans. Their leader, Counselor Threxen, hated Earth and its people more than anyone else. "Admiral," said a voice behind her. Elena turned to see Captain Marcus Drake walking toward her. He was a tall man with short brown hair and sharp blue eyes. His face was calm, but his posture betrayed his nervousness. "All our forces are ready," he continued. "If anything happens, we can respond quickly." Elena nodded. "Good work, Captain. I trust you've briefed your crew?" "Yes, ma'am," Marcus replied. "Everyone knows what's at stake." Elena gave him a small smile. "I know you'll do well, Marcus. Just remember one wrong move, and we're finished." Marcus swallowed hard. He understood the gravity of the situation. Humanity had sent 50 ships to this summit, a tiny fleet compared to the thousands of alien vessels surrounding them. If things went badly, there would be no escape. No reinforcements. Nothing. As they spoke, another figure entered the room. It was Counselor Threxen, the ambassador of the Krillin Empire. He was a towering creature with dark green skin and glowing red eyes. His long claws clicked against the floor as he walked. Behind him followed 2 guards armed with energy rifles. "Admiral Voss," Threxen growled, his voice low and menacing. "You dare to show your face here?" Elena straightened her back and faced him. "Counselor Threxen, we're here because we believe in peace. Isn't that why you called this summit?" Threxen sneered. "Peace? Humans have no place speaking of peace. You are invaders, thieves, and cowards. Your kind does not deserve to share the stars with us." Elena clenched her fists, but kept her composure. "We've done nothing wrong, Counselor. All we want is to coexist peacefully. Surely even you can see that." Threxen laughed coldly. "Coexist? With vermin like you? Never." Then he leaned closer, his breath hot and foul. "Know this, Admiral. Today will mark the end of your pathetic race." Before Elena could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed, and the ground shook slightly. Both humans and aliens rushed to the windows to see what was happening. Outside, thousands of alien ships suddenly activated their engines. Weapons powered up, and shields shimmered into existence. The once peaceful gathering had transformed into a battlefield. "What's going on?" Marcus asked, his hand instinctively reaching for the pistol at his side. Elena's heart sank as she realized the truth. "It's a trap. They've been planning this all along." Through the chaos, Threxen smirked. "Farewell, Admiral. Enjoy your final moments." With that, he and his guards disappeared through a nearby door, leaving Elena and Marcus alone. Outside, the alien armada began moving toward the human fleet. Lasers fired, explosions erupted, and the battle began. Elena quickly grabbed her communicator. "All units, prepare for combat. This is not a drill." Back aboard the human flagship, Defiance, officers scrambled to follow orders. Screens lit up with data, showing the overwhelming numbers of enemy ships. 50 human vessels against 10,000 alien ones. It was hopeless. In the middle of the chaos, Marcus received a message from Elena. "Captain Drake, deploy Eclipse. Show them what it means to challenge us." Marcus froze for a moment. Eclipse? That was the name of the secret warship humanity had been working on for years. A ship so advanced that most people didn't even know it existed. Could it really save them now? Without hesitation, Marcus ran to the bridge of his own ship. There, he activated the controls for Eclipse. Deep within the human fleet, a massive vessel began to emerge. It was black, sleek, and terrifying. Its weapons glowed faintly, and its sheer size dwarfed every other ship in sight. As Eclipse appeared, the alien fleet hesitated. What was this new threat? Before they could react, Eclipse unleashed its first salvo. Bright beams of energy shot out, striking multiple enemy ships at once. Explosions tore through the void, sending debris flying in all directions. The humans cheered, but the battle was far from over. Thousands of alien ships remained, and they weren't about to give up easily. More lasers and missiles streamed toward Eclipse, but none could penetrate its defenses. The ship's shields absorbed every attack without faltering. From inside Eclipse, Marcus felt a mix of awe and fear. This ship was unlike anything he'd ever seen. Its technology was beyond comprehension. Yet, he couldn't help but wonder if such power came at a cost. Meanwhile, Elena watched from the space station, her expression unreadable. She knew that deploying Eclipse was a gamble. If it failed, humanity would be wiped out entirely. But if it succeeded, then maybe, just maybe, they could turn the tide. As the battle raged on, Marcus delivered a chilling message via open comms. "This is not a warning. This is annihilation." And with those words, the real fight began. The battlefield was chaos. Thousands of alien ships surrounded the human fleet, firing lasers and missiles without mercy. Explosions lit up the darkness of space, sending shockwaves through the void. Humanity's 50 vessels fought bravely, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Every moment felt like it could be their last. Then, something changed. Deep within the human formation, a massive ship began to emerge. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Sleek and black, it looked like a shadow come to life. Its surface shimmered faintly, as if it were alive. Weapons bristled along its hull, glowing with an eerie blue light. This was Eclipse, humanity's secret weapon. And now, it had arrived. Captain Marcus Drake sat at the helm of Eclipse, his hands gripping the controls tightly. His heart raced as he watched the monitors showing the enemy fleet. He had trained for this moment, but nothing could prepare him for the reality of commanding such a powerful ship. Around him, the crew worked quickly, checking systems and preparing for battle. Everyone knew what was at stake. "Captain," said Lieutenant Sarah Chen, the ship's tactical officer, "all systems are online. Shields at full strength. Weapons ready." Marcus nodded. "Good. Let's show them what we're made of." Outside, the alien ships hesitated. They had never seen a vessel like Eclipse before. Some began to retreat, while others fired cautiously, unsure of how to attack. But Marcus didn't wait. With a deep breath, he gave the order, "Fire." From Eclipse's cannons came beams of pure energy, cutting through space like knives. The first salvo struck 3 squadrons of Krillin cruisers, obliterating them instantly. Ships that moments ago had been filled with life were now reduced to drifting wreckage. The aliens froze, stunned by the sheer power of the attack. On the bridge of Eclipse, the crew cheered. For the first time in the battle, humanity had the upper hand. But Marcus didn't celebrate. He knew this was just the beginning. "Keep firing," he ordered. "Don't let them regroup." The next volley targeted a cluster of smaller ships. These were fast and agile, designed to swarm larger vessels. But Eclipse's targeting system was faster. Automated drones launched from its hangars, intercepting incoming missiles and destroying enemy fighters with pinpoint accuracy. The aliens tried to counterattack, but their weapons couldn't penetrate Eclipse's shields. Every shot bounced harmlessly off its surface. Counselor Threxin watched in horror from his flagship. He had planned this ambush carefully, expecting to crush humanity once and for all. But now, everything was falling apart. His forces were being decimated, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. "What? What is that thing?" he stammered, pointing at the screen showing Eclipse. His officers didn't answer. They were too busy trying to save their own lives. Threxin growled in frustration. "Retreat. All units fall back." But it was too late. Eclipse's sensors tracked every movement, even through cloaking devices. Alien ships attempting to flee were chased down and destroyed. There was no escape dot back on the space station. Admiral Elena Voss watched the battle unfold. She stood silently, her arms crossed, as the tide turned in humanity's favor. Part of her felt relief, but another part felt unease. The power of Eclipse was incredible, but it also raised questions. Was this the kind of weapon humanity should wield? What would happen if it fell into the wrong hands? Nearby, other human officers gathered around screens, cheering as Eclipse continued its rampage. One of them approached Elena cautiously. "Admiral," he said, "it's working. We're winning." Elena nodded. "Yes, we are. But at what cost?" The officer frowned. "What do you mean?" Before Elena could answer, the comms crackled to life. It was Marcus, calling from Eclipse. His voice was calm but firm. "Admiral, permission to deliver a message to the enemy." Elena hesitated. She knew what Marcus wanted to say, and she wasn't sure if it was the right move. But after a moment, she gave her approval. Permission granted. On the bridge of Eclipse, Marcus took a deep breath. Then, he opened a channel to broadcast his message across the entire battlefield. His voice echoed through the void, reaching every alien ship. "This is Captain Marcus Drake of the human warship Eclipse. You have attacked us without provocation, threatening our people and our way of life. Now, you face the consequences. This is not a warning. This is annihilation." The words sent chills through the alien commanders. They realized they were dealing with something far beyond their understanding. Some tried to surrender, sending desperate messages pleading for mercy. Others continued to fight, hoping against hope that they could somehow turn the tide. But none of it mattered. Eclipse was unstoppable. As the battle raged on, Marcus reflected on the situation. He thought about the years of struggle humanity had endured, being treated as inferior, forced to prove itself over and over again. He thought about the sacrifices made by so many to reach this point. And he thought about the future. If humanity won today, what kind of galaxy would they build? Would they become peacemakers or tyrants? For now, though, there was no time for such questions. The fight wasn't over yet. On one of the monitors, Marcus noticed a group of alien ships attempting to flank Eclipse. They were small and fast, relying on speed to avoid detection. But Eclipse's advanced sensors picked them up easily. "Lieutenant Chen," Marcus said, "target those ships. Take them out." Chan nodded and entered the commands. Within seconds, Eclipse's cannons roared to life again. Beams of energy streaked through space, striking the enemy ships with deadly precision. One by one, they exploded, leaving behind only debris. Across the battlefield, the remaining alien forces began to panic. Their leaders screamed orders, trying to rally their troops, but it was useless. Morale had collapsed. Many ships simply shut down their engines, refusing to fight any longer. Others attempted to flee, only to be hunted down by Eclipse's relentless pursuit. Counselor Threxon slammed his fist against the console in rage. How could this happen? How could they have something like that? His second-in-command, a nervous-looking officer, spoke up. Sir, we need to leave. If we stay here, we'll be destroyed. Threxon glared at him. Cowards. I will not run from these. These humans? But even he couldn't deny the truth. Staying meant certain death. Reluctantly, he gave the order to retreat. His flagship turned and fled, followed by whatever ships remained of his once mighty armada. On the bridge of Eclipse, Marcus watched as the enemy forces scattered. The battle was almost over. Humanity had won. Cease fire, he ordered. Let the survivors go. The crew obeyed, lowering their weapons. Outside, the void was silent once more. Only the wreckage of countless ships remained, floating quietly in the darkness. Marcus leaned back in his chair, exhaling deeply. For the first time since the battle began, he allowed himself to relax. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity had triumphed. But as he looked at the screens showing the devastation, a heavy feeling settled in his chest. So many lives had been lost, not just human, but alien as well. Was this truly victory? Or was it something else entirely? He shook his head, pushing the thoughts aside. There would be time to reflect later. For now, they had won. That was all that mattered. On the space station, Admiral Elena Voss received confirmation that the battle was over. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the weight of everything sink in. Then, she turned to the human officers gathered around her. We've done it, she said simply. We've shown them that humanity cannot be underestimated. The officers cheered, their voices echoing through the room. Elena joined them briefly, smiling despite her doubts. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Somewhere in the distance, the remnants of the alien fleet disappeared into hyperspace. The galaxy would never forget this day. The day humanity proved it could stand toe-to-toe with the greatest powers in the stars and win. The battle was far from over, but the momentum had shifted completely. The alien armada that once surrounded humanity's fleet was now in disarray. Ships fled in all directions, their captains desperate to escape the wrath of Eclipse. Captain Marcus Drake sat at the helm of the warship, watching as his crew worked tirelessly to maintain control of the battlefield. Every shot fired by Eclipse was precise, every maneuver calculated. Yet, despite the overwhelming power at his command, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling of unease growing in his chest. Outside, the void of space was littered with debris-broken hulls, shattered weapons, and the remains of countless lives. The once mighty fleets of the Krillin Empire and their allies were being dismantled piece by piece. For 4 minutes, Eclipse unleashed its fury upon them, each moment showcasing a new level of devastation. The galaxy would remember these 4 minutes for centuries to come. Minute 1. Plasma barrages at the start of the assault. Eclipse's plasma cannons roared to life. Massive beams of energy surged forward, slicing through enemy formations like paper. 3 squadrons of Krillin cruisers, each consisting of dozens of ships, were obliterated in an instant. The explosions lit up the darkness of space, sending shockwaves rippling outward. Alien commanders scrambled to regroup, but their efforts were futile. Eclipse moved too quickly, its engines humming softly as it repositioned for another attack. On the bridge, Lieutenant Sarah Chun monitored the targeting systems. Her fingers danced across the controls, ensuring every shot hit its mark. "Plasma cannons are holding steady," she reported. "Enemy shields are collapsing under the strain." Marcus nodded, his eyes fixed on the main screen. He watched as more ships exploded, their crews unable to comprehend the destruction raining down upon them. Despite the chaos, he felt a strange sense of detachment. This wasn't just a battle. It was a demonstration of humanity's strength. A message to the galaxy that Earth would not be pushed around. "Keep firing," Marcus ordered. "Don't let them recover." Minute 2. Quantum disruptors. The second minute began. Eclipse activated its quantum disruptors. These weapons were unlike anything the aliens had ever encountered. They didn't destroy ships directly, but instead disrupted the fundamental forces holding them together. Engines failed, power grids collapsed, and entire fleets were left adrift in space. One by one, the alien vessels lost their ability to move or fight. Their crews panicked, trying desperately to repair their systems. But it was no use. The disruptors targeted their technology at a molecular level, rendering it useless. Even cloaked ships, those hidden from view, were revealed and disabled. Counselor Threxon, aboard his fleeing flagship, screamed in frustration. "What kind of sorcery is this? How can they do this?" His officers cowered before him, unable to answer. They had never seen anything like Eclipse. Its weapons defied logic, breaking rules they thought were unbreakable. Threxon clenched his fists, his claws digging into the armrests of his chair. For the first time in his life, he felt fear deep, paralyzing fear. Back on Eclipse, Marcus observed the effects of the quantum disruptors. Screens displayed data showing hundreds of ships immobilized, their crews trapped inside. He knew that many of these aliens would die not from direct attacks, but from lack of oxygen or life support. It was a grim reality, but one he had prepared himself for. "Quantum disruptors online and stable," Lieutenant Chun announced. "Enemy propulsion systems offline across multiple sectors." Marcus exhaled slowly. "Good. Let's keep pushing." Minute 3. Cloaked fighters by the third minute. Some of the surviving alien ships attempted a last-ditch effort to turn the tide. Dozens of cloaked fighters emerged from the wreckage, hoping to catch Eclipse off guard. These small, agile vessels were designed to slip past defenses and strike vital targets. In any other battle, they might have succeeded. But not today. Eclipse's advanced sensor grid detected the fighters instantly. Automated drones launched from its hangars, intercepting the attackers before they could get close. Lasers flashed through space as the drones engaged the fighters, destroying them with ruthless efficiency. Within moments, the cloaked squadron was wiped out. On the bridge, Marcus allowed himself a brief smile. "Nice work, everyone. Keep it up." Lieutenant Chung glanced at him, her expression serious. "Sir, we're taking minimal damage so far. Their weapons can't penetrate our shields." "That's because we've got the best tech humanity has ever built," Marcus replied. "But don't get complacent. We still have enemies out there." Chun nodded. "Understood, sir." Minute 4. Gravity well generator. As the fourth and final minute approached, Marcus gave the order to deploy Eclipse's most devastating weapon, the gravity well generator. This device manipulated the fabric of space-time itself, creating intense gravitational forces that crushed anything caught in its radius. It was a weapon of last resort, capable of destroying entire fleets in seconds. The generator hummed to life, sending ripples through the surrounding area. Alien ships caught in its pull began to buckle and collapse. Hulls crumpled like tinfoil, and crews were crushed by the immense pressure. The effect was catastrophic, wiping out hundreds of ships in a single stroke. Counselor Threxon watched in horror as his remaining forces were annihilated. His own flagship barely escaped the gravity well's reach, but it was severely damaged. Systems failed, lights flickered, and alarms blared throughout the ship. Threxon slumped back in his chair, defeated. They did it, he whispered. They actually did it. Aftermath. When the 4 minutes ended, the battlefield was eerily quiet. Thousands of alien ships had been destroyed, leaving behind only drifting wreckage and silence. The human fleet, though battered, remained intact. Admiral Elena Voss, watching from the space station, felt a mix of pride and sorrow. Humanity had proven itself, but at a great cost. On the bridge of Eclipse, Marcus leaned back in his chair, exhausted. The crew exchanged relieved smiles, knowing they had accomplished the impossible. But Marcus couldn't celebrate. He looked at the screens showing the devastation and wondered how history would judge them. "Captain," Lieutenant Chen said softly, "we did it." "We won." Marcus nodded. "Yeah, we did. But I can't help thinking about what comes next." Chen hesitated. "What do you mean?" "I mean, now that we've shown the galaxy what we're capable of, what happens when someone else decides to challenge us? Or worse, when someone tries to copy us?" Chen didn't have an answer. She simply stared at the monitors, where the remnants of the alien fleet continued to drift aimlessly. Admiral Voss contacted Marcus shortly after the battle ended. Her voice was calm but firm. "Captain Drake, excellent work. You've done humanity proud." "Thank you, Admiral," Marcus replied. "But I think we both know this changes everything." Voss sighed. "Yes, it does. And we'll need to be ready for whatever comes next." As the human fleet regrouped and prepared to return home, the galaxy took notice. News of Eclipse's power spread quickly, striking fear into the hearts of even the strongest empires. Humanity had risen from obscurity to become a force to be reckoned with. But with great power came great responsibility and uncertainty. Somewhere in the distance, Counselor Threxon plotted his revenge. Though defeated, he vowed to find a way to bring humanity to its knees. The galaxy had changed forever, and the seeds of future conflict had already been sown. The battle was over. The galaxy was silent. Thousands of alien ships had been destroyed, their crews lost to the void of space. Humanity's fleet, though battered, remained standing thanks to the overwhelming power of Eclipse. The human warship had proven itself unmatched, a symbol of Earth's strength and ingenuity. But as the dust settled, metaphorically speaking, the survivors began to grapple with the aftermath. Admiral Elena Voss stood on the bridge of her flagship, staring at the screens showing the wreckage. She felt a mix of emotions: pride, relief, guilt, and unease. Pride because humanity had triumphed against impossible odds. Relief because they had survived. Guilt because so many lives, human and alien, had been lost. And unease because she knew this victory came with consequences far beyond what anyone could predict. Nearby, Captain Marcus Drake sat quietly aboard Eclipse, his mind heavy with thoughts. He had commanded the most powerful ship ever built, and he had used it to devastating effect. Yet, instead of feeling triumphant, he felt hollow. The destruction he had witnessed weighed on him. He wondered if this was truly the path humanity should take to dominate through fear and force. As the human fleet regrouped, Admiral Voss called for a meeting with the surviving alien leaders. They were brought aboard the space station orbiting Xylos 4, escorted by armed guards. These aliens, once proud and arrogant, now looked defeated and broken. Their faces betrayed a mixture of fear, anger, and shame. Diplomatic scene. The conference room was large, with a circular table surrounded by chairs. On one side sat Admiral Voss, flanked by Captain Drake and several other human officers. Across from them sat the alien leaders, including Counselor Threxon of the Krillin Empire. His green skin was pale, his glowing red eyes dimmed by exhaustion. Beside him were representatives from other species, all of whom had joined the ambush, but were now paying the price. Admiral Voss leaned forward, her voice calm but firm. You attacked us without provocation. You sought to destroy us, thinking we were weak. You were wrong. Threxen clenched his fists but said nothing. He couldn't deny the truth. Humanity had shown its strength, and there was no denying it now. Voss continued. We are not here to seek revenge or to punish you further. We want peace. But let me make one thing clear. Humanity will not tolerate aggression or exploitation ever again. If you wish to survive, you will agree to our terms. One of the alien leaders, a tall, insectoid creature named Ziller, spoke up hesitantly. What are your terms? Voss gestured to an officer who activated a holographic display. It showed a list of demands. All hostile military forces must disband. No species may build weapons capable of threatening Earth. Humanity will oversee trade routes and resource distribution. To ensure fairness, any violation of these terms will result in immediate retaliation. The alien leaders exchanged nervous glances. These terms were strict, almost humiliating, but none of them dared argue. Not after witnessing the power of Eclipse. Threxen finally spoke, his voice low and bitter. And if we refuse? Voss met his gaze without flinching. Then you leave us no choice. We will finish what we started. There was silence in the room. The aliens knew she wasn't bluffing. After 4 minutes of terror, they understood exactly what humanity was capable of. Ziller nodded slowly. We accept your terms. For now. Voss gave a small, satisfied smile. Good. Let this be the beginning of a new era. Internal conflict. While the diplomatic talks concluded, tensions arose within humanity's own ranks. Back aboard Eclipse, Marcus and his crew discussed the implications of their actions. Some believed that humanity should push even harder, using Eclipse to enforce total dominance over the galaxy. Others argued for restraint, fearing that such power could corrupt them. Lieutenant Sarah Chun voiced her concerns during a briefing. Sir, do you think we've gone too far? Destroying entire fleets, wiping out civilizations. Is this really who we want to be? Marcus sighed deeply. I don't know, Lieutenant. All I know is that we did what we had to do to survive. But you're right. We need to think about the future. What kind of galaxy do we want to live in? Another officer, Commander Harris, chimed in. We can't afford to be soft, Captain. The aliens won't hesitate to strike back if they think we're weak. We need to show them that we're serious. Marcus frowned. But how far do we go? Do we become tyrants ourselves? Is that the price of survival? The debate continued late into the night with no clear answers. Everyone agreed that humanity had changed forever. The question was whether that change would lead to prosperity or disaster. Reflections, meanwhile. Admiral Voss reflected on the events of the past days. She walked alone along the corridors of the space station, her footsteps echoing softly. She thought about the sacrifices made, the lives lost, and the choices she had been forced to make. Leadership was never easy, especially when the stakes were so high. She stopped at a viewport and gazed out at the stars. Somewhere out there, countless civilizations existed, each with their own hopes and fears. Humanity had always dreamed of exploring the galaxy, of finding its place among the stars. Now, they had found it, but at what cost? A young officer approached her cautiously. Admiral Voss, may I speak freely? Voss turned to face him. Of course. The officer hesitated before speaking. Do you think we've done the right thing? I mean, we've shown the galaxy that we're strong, but have we also shown them that we're just... Voss smiled faintly. That's a good question. One I ask myself every day. Strength isn't enough, Lieutenant. We have to use it wisely. That's why we didn't destroy all of them. That's why we offered terms for peace. We're not here to rule the galaxy. We're here to protect it. The officer nodded, though he still seemed uncertain. I hope you're right, ma'am. So do I, Voss replied softly. Final preparations with the diplomatic talks complete, humanity began preparations to return home. The human fleet gathered together, ready to jump into hyperspace. Before leaving, Admiral Voss addressed the crew of Eclipse personally. She stood on the bridge, looking at the men and women who had fought so bravely. You've done something extraordinary, she said. You've shown the galaxy that humanity cannot be underestimated. But remember this, power is a tool, not a weapon. Use it wisely, and never forget why we fight to protect our people and our way of life. The crew listened intently, their expressions filled with determination. They knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay in store. As the fleet departed, Marcus took one last look at the battlefield. Drifting wreckage floated silently in the darkness, a reminder of the cost of victory. He whispered to himself, "Let's hope this doesn't happen again." Months had passed since the battle at Xylos 4. The galaxy was still reeling from the events of that day. News of humanity's triumph spread quickly, carried by traders, diplomats, and spies. The name Eclipse became synonymous with power and fear. Alien civilizations whispered about the black warship that could annihilate entire fleets in minutes. Some admired humanity for its strength, while others plotted revenge. But one thing was certain, Earth was no longer seen as weak or insignificant. Humanity's colonies thrived under the newfound peace. Trade routes reopened, resources flowed freely, and life began to improve for billions of people. On Earth itself, celebrations erupted in cities around the world. Parades were held, monuments were built, and leaders gave speeches praising the bravery of those who had fought. Yet, beneath the surface, questions lingered. What kind of future would this victory bring? Would humanity become peacemakers or tyrants? Rebuilding the galaxy, Admiral Elena Voss stood on the balcony of her office, overlooking the bustling streets of Geneva. She watched as citizens went about their daily lives, unaware of the weight she carried on her shoulders. Since returning from Xylos 4, she had worked tirelessly to rebuild trust between humanity and the alien species they now oversaw. It wasn't easy. Many aliens resented Earth's dominance, viewing it as oppression rather than protection. Others saw humanity as saviors, grateful for the stability they brought to the galaxy. Voss knew that maintaining this fragile peace required careful diplomacy. She spent hours each day meeting with ambassadors, negotiating treaties, and addressing grievances. Her goal was clear, to create a galaxy where all species could coexist peacefully. But achieving that goal meant making tough decisions, decisions that sometimes left her questioning whether she was doing the right thing. One evening, as she reviewed reports from across the galaxy, a young officer entered her office. "Admiral Voss," he said hesitantly, "you have a visitor." Voss looked up, surprised. "Who is it?" "It's Captain Drake," the officer replied. Voss nodded. "Send him in." Moments later, Marcus stepped into the room. He looked different from the last time she had seen him. His uniform was crisp, but his eyes betrayed a deep weariness. He saluted briefly before speaking. "Admiral," he said, "I wanted to update you on Eclipse. Everything's running smoothly, but there's something we need to discuss." Voss gestured for him to sit. "Go ahead, Captain." Marcus took a seat, choosing his words carefully. "The crew's been hearing rumors, Admiral. Rumors about other projects like Eclipse. Projects even more advanced. Is it true?" Voss sighed, leaning back in her chair. "Yes, Captain. There are other projects. Things we've kept hidden for years. Weapons, ships, technologies beyond anything you've seen so far." Marcus frowned. "Why keep them secret?" Shouldn't we focus on rebuilding instead of preparing for another war? Voss shook her head. It's not about starting wars, Marcus. It's about preventing them. The galaxy is vast, and not everyone shares our vision of peace. If word gets out that we're vulnerable, someone will try to take advantage of that. We need these safeguards to protect ourselves and the peace we've worked so hard to achieve. Marcus didn't respond immediately. He stared at the floor, lost in thought. Finally, he spoke. I understand, Admiral, but I can't help wondering, how much power is too much? At what point do we stop protecting and start ruling? Voss smiled faintly. That's a question I ask myself every day, Marcus. And I don't have an answer. All I know is that we must tread carefully. Power corrupts, but it also protects. It's up to us to decide how to use it. A new dawn as weeks turned into months. The galaxy began to change. Under humanity's watchful eye, trade flourished and alliances formed. Alien species that had once been enemies started working together, sharing knowledge and resources. Slowly but surely, a new order emerged, one based on cooperation rather than conflict. On Earth, scientists and engineers continued to push the boundaries of technology. Innovations developed during the war found practical applications, improving lives across the planet. Medical breakthroughs cured diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. Energy sources became cleaner and more efficient, reducing humanity's impact on the environment. For the first time in history, Earth seemed united, not just as nations, but as a single species. Captain Marcus Drake retired from active duty shortly after returning from Xylos IV. Though he was hailed as a hero, he chose to step away from the spotlight. He moved to a quiet coastal town where he spent his days fishing and reflecting on the past. Occasionally, he received messages from old friends, updating him on the state of the galaxy. Each message brought mixed emotions, pride in humanity's progress, but also concern for the challenges ahead. One evening, as the sun set over the ocean, Marcus sat on the porch of his small house. A young boy approached him, holding a toy spaceship. Are you really the guy who commanded Eclipse? The boy asked excitedly. Marcus chuckled. I guess I am. The boy's eyes widened. Wow, that's so cool. Do you think we'll ever build another ship like that? Marcus paused, looking out at the horizon. Maybe, he said finally. But I hope we won't need to. The boy tilted his head, confused. Why not? Because, Marcus explained, the best way to protect ourselves isn't with weapons or ships. It's by understanding each other, by working together. That's how we'll truly make the galaxy a better place. The boy nodded slowly, though he didn't fully understand. He ran off to play, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts. As darkness fell, Marcus gazed at the stars twinkling above. Somewhere out there was the vastness of space, a canvas waiting to be explored. Humanity had taken its first steps toward greatness, but the journey was far from over. A shadow on the horizon far away. In uncharted regions of the galaxy, a group of alien commanders gathered in secret. They studied data stolen from spies who had infiltrated human territory. Screens displayed schematics of Eclipse and reports of its capabilities. Fear and anger filled the room as the leaders debated their next move. We cannot let them grow stronger, one commander growled. If we wait, they'll become unstoppable. Another nodded grimly. We must act now. Gather every resource we have. Build a fleet capable of facing them. A third leader, older and wiser, raised a hand for silence. Patience, he said. They are powerful, yes. But even the strongest empires have weaknesses. We must find theirs and strike when the time is right. The others exchanged glances, unsure but willing to listen. For now, they would bide their time, building their forces in secret. But one thing was certain. Humanity's rise had awakened a sleeping giant. And when the giants awoke, the galaxy trembled. Final reflection back on Earth. Admiral Voss stood once again on her balcony, watching the stars. She thought about everything that had happened. The battles fought, the lives lost, the choices made. Humanity had proven itself strong, but strength alone wasn't enough. To truly thrive, they needed wisdom, compassion, and courage. As she turned to go inside, a soft chime sounded from her communicator. It was a message from the President of Earth's Unified Council. The subject line read, "Preparations for Future Threats." Voss hesitated before opening it. She already knew what it would say. More projects, more weapons, more safeguards. The cycle continued, but as she closed her eyes, she allowed herself a moment of hope. Perhaps one day, humanity wouldn't need such weapons. Perhaps one day, the galaxy would find true peace. For now, though, she would continue doing her duty, protecting her people, guiding them toward a brighter future. Because that was what leadership meant. That was what humanity stood for. And somewhere deep in the void of space, the shadow of Eclipse loomed a reminder of both humanity's potential and its responsibility.